I'm JP Davidson, and this is The Sound of Small Business, inspiring stories and hard-earned lessons from successful Canadian entrepreneurs. Brought to you by RBC. About an hour outside of New York City, in a beautiful state park, is the legendary Bethpage Black Course. Golf Digest says it's among the best and toughest in the country. It's also notoriously hard to get a tee time here. It's actually not uncommon for golfers to sleep in the parking lot overnight, just to get a chance to play in the morning. And today, its narrow tree-lined fairways are just starting to show the faintest glimmer of fall colors.
Ooh, look at this.
Ryan Hawk's ball soars and lands square on the first green.
Nice shot.
He gets his putter out. How does putting actually work on this thing?
Just like it does in real life.
Okay, so we're not really at Bethpage State Park. We didn't camp out overnight. We're actually across the continent in downtown Vancouver, BC, at a place called One Under. We're standing in front of a huge 8x10 screen. It's like being in the front row of a movie theater. You have to crane your neck around just to take in the full scene. And on screen are real high-def images of the first hole of the Bethpage Black Course. You can even see the little pin flag flapping on the green. Ryan lines up his shot.
So a 10-foot putt. I missed it. Not a big shocker. Pretty common in real life as well.
Sure, you still miss putts, but One Under is way cheaper than a normal golf game, more convenient, and it takes less time. Plus, you can eat pizza and have a drink while you do it.
We call it an urban golf club.
That's Ryan Hawk. He co-founded One Under with his high school friend, Jay Young. Still can't picture exactly what One Under is? That's okay. Jay gets that a lot.
Yeah, I remember early on, for sure, when you're explaining this concept to friends and family, telling people that it's sort of a restaurant, it's sort of a bar, and we've got golf, and they're sort of confused. What does this place look like, and how does this occur? Do you actually hit a ball?
Yes, you actually hit a ball into a screen. Here's Ryan again.
Picture a projector on your wall at home in your media room. It's essentially just capturing the image and stopping the ball.
The ball stops, but 4 cameras and a series of LED lights capture exactly where the ball would have gone and translates it onto the screen.
You're hitting the ball in exactly the same way that you would be on a golf course, except that our grass isn't real.
The grass isn't real, but the amount of work Jay and Ryan put into this place to get it off the ground, that was legit.
Some days you'd wake up going through this and be like, what have I done?
It's no secret that a new small business takes a lot of work. But right now, only 4 months in, One Under is busy. It's not uncommon for the place to be at capacity on a weeknight. They're booking corporate parties, and there's a great buzz around the city. They're growing. And the owners are even getting in a quick 9 virtual holes, before the dinner rush. But this quick growth wasn't without a few obstacles.
Yeah, just missed the fairway.
You're in the sand trap.
In the sand trap, yeah. Here we go.
So One Under, Urban Golf Club. Let's start, at the start. Ryan Hawk, the guy in the sand trap, grew up just outside Vancouver, and for a long time worked in construction.
Gas fitting, plumbing, that sort of stuff.
Then he made the move to real estate here in Vancouver. He did that for about 8 years, until Jay Young came to him with kind of a crazy idea. Jay's background is in venture capital, investing, and his investments have really run the gamut, like a prawn farm, wind energy, and menswear. He's always on the hunt for new, unique business ideas, and one in particular struck his interest and stayed in the back of his mind.
Something that I had seen a few years back in London, England.
It was the same concept as One Under, a bar with a row of golf simulator bays. These types of simulators are actually most popular in places like Korea, but the upscale feel of this place in London caught Jay's attention. So he pitched the idea to Ryan, who was ready for a change from real estate. And Ryan was a lifelong golfer.
He loves this game. Ryan will get up at any time of the day. He will pop out of bed, no alarm needed, if there is a golf game.
That's Ryan's fiancée, Jen Eden. She knew Jay had said the magic word when he mentioned golf to Ryan. So soon, Jay and Ryan were headed to London to have a look at this golf bar.
It was a great experience for us. Spending those 3 days in London, trying out the simulators, trying the food there, and seeing how many staff were required to run this business.
They were sold on the concept, But with any small business, it's not just the entrepreneurs that are involved. Their families are always along for the ride, whether they like it or not. Lots of people learn that the hard way.
I mean, if you're going to go home at the end of the day and your spouse is not supportive of your career, then you're going to be in an uphill battle for months or years.
And you can see how this idea specifically might be a tough sell.
Your boyfriend is like, I'm going to open up a bar that's downtown, golf, open late. I'm like, yeah, why not, babe? Great idea.
So Ryan brought Jen along on that research trip to London. And Jay brought his wife as well.
I think it added a level of, okay, these guys aren't just wanting to create a man cave for a business or something like that. Next thing you know, we were, dropping off a check for a deposit on the lease space.
They had found a spot they loved right in the heart of Vancouver's financial district, in a beautiful historic building. It would be a lot of work, but they knew they'd transform it.
Yeah, that was a turning point for sure, where we're actually committing serious coin towards this project. We got to go forward.
There's a photo from that day of the two of them proudly posing with the deposit check. Ryan shows me on his phone. You do look a little scared.
Yeah, we actually, Jay edited the photo in black and white so that you can't see, you can't tell that all the pigment is gone from my face.
You would be terrified too if you were plunking down all that money for an unfinished basement space in a 100-year-old building. That's when reality started setting in. It was more of a concrete bunker than the wood and leather-lined getaway it is today. Plus, it was their own money they were putting up. That's right, even though Jay has a background in investing, they ended up not approaching any outside investors for funding. Between the two of them and a small business loan from RBC, they were able to get the money they needed to make their thing in the way that worked best for them.
Whenever you can get away with not giving up any equity to outside investment, I think you're going to be better for it.
And they can be more nimble and make their own decisions for their business, since no other investors have any skin in the game.
It's up to the two of us to decide, is this right for the company? Is this right for our personal lives and our families? That's a nice position to be in.
So the financing was all set, and thanks to RBC, they had financial freedom without outside investors. But even then, it wasn't going to be easy. First, it's Vancouver, one of the only places in Canada where there's a chance you could hit the links, even in the middle of February. Plus, it's indoor golf, and maybe people don't want to go inside to play golf. But thanks to all their research, Ryan and Jay knew not to try to bill their simulators as a replacement for the real thing.
We're not trying to create a golf course in here. This is a fun way to experience an activity where you can have some food and have some drinks and have a good time.
Coming up, cooking food in a 100-year-old basement is harder than you might think. Hear how Ryan and Jay creatively overcame a huge roadblock that threatened to stop their business before it even started. The solution involves making pizza. Really, really fast. But first, The Sound of Small Business is brought to you by RBC. Amar Majithia is Ryan and Jay's account manager at RBC in Vancouver. He really knows small business, but golf, not so much.
I'm not a golfer at all. I won't profess to be any good at that kind of thing. But with Ryan and Jay, you really could see how much they believed in the idea. And it's really something that they're thinking that, okay, someday we're going to do this, someday we're going to do that. And to be able to say, we can do that today, it's almost like you're giving someone the key to their dream, right? Anytime you are working with a client in your office, it's not really tangible. You're basically seeing the idea on paper. And then going there as a customer, I went with my wife and some family. If you were to ask me a year ago where I thought they'd be, I would never have pictured they would have been seeing the success as quickly as they would. They're going to be able to transition that into location 2, 3, 4, down the road for sure. And to know that I had a part in that, you can't help but feel a little bit warm about it.
For help making your someday happen, speak to a business specialist at your local RBC Royal Bank branch, or go to rbc.com/buildingbusiness today. When you first visit One Under, you'll notice they don't try to shove the golf thing down your throat. There's no kitsch or typical clubhouse knickknacks. The first thing you see is the 100-year-old restored tile flooring. There's moody lighting, and the bar sells a carefully curated selection of local craft beverages. And of course, the food they serve is a long way from the snacks you might have had at the driving range.
The pizzas are traditional Italian, like thin crust pizzas. And the spicy soppressata one is our most popular by a long shot.
That's head chef Christopher Doney. And the fact that he's even making pizzas in this small kitchen is kind of amazing. See, one of the many hurdles of putting a modern business in this century-old building is that there was no ventilation system where they wanted to put the kitchen. Normally, that would mean you can't put a kitchen there because of fire code regulations. But the ever-resourceful Ryan found this crazy oven called the Turbo Chef Fire. They have to be special ordered from Italy. It doesn't require a ventilation system to operate, plus it cooks pizzas really fast.
It takes approximately 2.5 minutes to cook a pizza from absolute raw dough to blistering goodness at the end.
Ah, the taste of a crisis averted. Growth is a word that gets thrown around a lot in business. And when it comes to a new small business, it's what you think you want. You've burned through all this money just to get the doors open, so you want customers, employees, revenue. But when they first started, and this is a little counterintuitive, Jay and Ryan didn't want to attract too many customers. They needed to make sure that they could pull this thing off, that they could actually do this thing before they went big.
Yeah, one of our biggest goals has always been to execute. And, you know, obviously in the beginning, when you have no track record, you're concerned about whether you're able to do that.
So they didn't, for instance, do a big advertising blitz.
You know, you may get a big group of people through the door, but if you're not ensuring that the customer experience is great for everyone, then none of those people are going to come back.
They wanted to make sure their staff could troubleshoot the simulators, or that their menu worked and that the kitchen could execute it. It also gave Ryan and Jay time to get their bearings and not be totally overwhelmed and bogged down putting out fires. They could stay nimble and focused on the key parts of their business. For instance, it's important for Jay to personally handle every incoming email to the general inquiries inbox. Emails that some business owners might choose to delegate away.
I try to answer every single email within a couple hours. And I find that, especially on the corporate booking side, that helps us to solidify a lot of bookings.
And it's not just daily emails with the public. Ryan's been known to help with salad prep for a big event. Not being slammed right from the start gave them the capacity to help ease growing pains and grow smarter. They actually have a corporate party booked tonight, and those are quickly becoming a huge revenue source for them, especially because they can book them on weeknights, which are typically slow nights for bars. Another thing that's helped keep One Under's growth headed in the right direction without sacrificing quality is knowing when to take a step back. Salads and emails are one thing, but you've got to know where to focus your efforts and know when to back off. It's something that a lot of small business owners pay lip service to, but rarely actually do.
Whether it be, you know, somebody who's washing dishes or somebody who's a reception or managing the bar, realize very quickly that they're better at things than we are.
Ryan actually has a self-imposed ban on visiting the bar on Friday and Saturday nights, just so he doesn't get in the way.
When you put those great people in place and just, you know, give them the autonomy to do their job and do it well, I think we're going to be better for it.
It's a Wednesday night, and One Under is at capacity. The private party is underway. There's a photo booth in the corner, and the company hosting has put up $50,000 for anyone who can hit a hole-in-one in one of the simulators. People are having fun, laughing, taking selfies. It's not the kind of thing you'd see in the clubhouse of one of the courses featured on the simulators here. But it's true to what Ryan sees as the spirit of golf.
I've said this a million times. I know Jay feels the same way as well. As golf is something I feel like it brings people and friends a little bit closer together.
Ryan and Jay are happy to have accomplished that much, bringing people closer together. But that doesn't mean they're done. Not by a long shot. Here's Jay.
We still want to see sort of how the spring, summer months turn out for this business. And now that we have a little bit more free time for the two of us, we're able to focus on, okay, let's start a league event and let's work on our corporate events and let's start poking around at lease space in Toronto or Calgary. I guess I'm inspired by my father. They get to spend 6 months of the year down in the Palm Desert area in California. So as a passionate golfer and someone who loves the sunshine, I'd love to have the ability to buy a second home in the Palm Springs area and enjoy the latter years experiencing the game of golf and spending more time with my family.
Until then, he'll have plenty of time to work on his swing, along with Ryan in the simulator. We just heard the story of Jay and Ryan's Vancouver golf simulation bar, 1 Under. And we wanted to sort of unpack their story and see what lessons small business owners or potential small business owners can learn from it. So I visited Vicki Saunders, Canadian entrepreneur, mentor, and business advisor. And Vicki actually had her own idea for a simulator experience.
You know what would be really cool is if you could actually simulate starting a business. 50% of young people today graduating from university want to start a business, but there's no safe place to try it.
So what do you think of this virtual golf bar concept?
Well, I think it's interesting because golf is actually not on a rise anymore. Less and less people are golfing because they can't get the time away from business. So I think that's kind of interesting. So maybe this is a way of sort of solving that problem. It's like quick hit, you get in there, you play with your friends, because a lot of people that I know that are golf freaks don't get out there anymore. So this might be interesting.
So Jay and Ryan seem to work well together as partners, and they complement each other, but that can't always be the case. Is it difficult for entrepreneurs to find a business partner that they click with and work well with?
It's really tough to find a partner that you click with. One of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make is they hire someone just like them because they get along easily, they can answer each other's sentences. But the challenge there is most people don't have strengths in all quadrants of the brain. Only 4% of the population can actually think procedurally, analytically, innovatively, and relationally, which is like the full brain package. So one of the things you need to do as a founder is get really clear on what you're great at, what your mastery is, and then find a partner who does all the stuff that you don't like to do. And they love to do it, right? So that's the perfect combination.
So one thing Jay and Ryan did was they did a lot of research before they started their business. Jay and Ryan also brought their partners along on this research trip to London so that they were included in the decision-making process. How important is that for other entrepreneurs to include their family?
One of the biggest challenges that you have as an entrepreneur is you're out there taking all these risks in crazy land, and you have usually someone who's a little bit more stable than you on the other side of the partnership, hopefully, that can kind of be there for you. So I think making sure that they can get a sense of what your world is like is important, because having support as an entrepreneur is crucial to your success.
So in addition to this idea of including them on the research and planning phase, are there any examples or tips that you can think of from your experience with regard to specifics on how to include your partner?
I think one of the things that happens as an entrepreneur, you feel usually very alone. Most entrepreneurs I know feel like they're all alone. So to be able to include your partner is great. One of the things that I do regularly with my husband is when I come home, I debrief my day so that he can get a sense of what's going on. And he has all this incredibly sage advice all the time. So it's super helpful to get all this stress and tension that's in your head out. And if you can share that with someone who doesn't worry too much about all the things that you're going through, it can be really helpful.
Jay and Ryan didn't get any outside investors, and they really enjoyed the freedom that offers. Was that a smart move?
It's a smart move if it works for you. I think there's all kinds of financing out there. Right now, you can go and get an investor early stage as an angel. You can get friends and family to put money in. You can get a bank loan, or you can bootstrap the business yourself or use your own resources to get going. And I think it really depends on the person. Different investors work for different people. So if that's what worked for them, I'm all for it. I think one of the things that we're hearing all over the place these days is you have to get an investor, and everyone's all excited about how much money they've raised. So there's a bit of a narrative around that. I think it's a slippery slope, because if you get an investor in early who doesn't really share your values and doesn't really share the vision for where you're going, it can be so tough. I mean, it's hard enough doing this on your own, but if you have someone who's pushing you and poking you in different directions all the time, that makes it really difficult.
Is this a bit of a fad?
We are in such a fad right now. You know, every place, like, it's pretty easy to get money all over the place at the very early stage, and people take a percentage of your company. But you have to be careful with that, I think, depending on, if that's the right kind of fit for you. I mean, this is an old school thought, really, but imagine revenue. If you actually have revenue at the early stage of your business, you're going to be in a stronger position down the road to negotiate better with investors. But if someone's coming in at the idea stage, it's like all bets are off. They're probably taking 30% of your company, and here we go.
One of the things that Jay and Ryan did is they intentionally tempered the growth of their business. They didn't do a huge advertising blitz. They sort of did this soft open and waited to make sure that they could execute all the things they had planned. Is that a smart thing to do to temper growth in the early days?
I think at the early stage of your business, you need to be careful to make sure that your product actually fits the market. And so going out with the new word of the day is the minimum viable product. So starting with a minimum viable product to get going, test it with people, see what they think, and then iterate as you go. Instead of, the old school way was you go raise a couple $1 million, you build this big monstrosity, and you put it out there and cross your fingers, hope everyone comes. But now it's much more iterative, the approach that people are taking. It's really important to get clear on what is the most important feature or the most important component of your business, and then adding things as you go. But don't bake in the kitchen sink from the very beginning. It's not a good idea.
Another thing that the guys talk about struggling with is staying hands-off, deciding when to dive in and do that micromanaging and when to take a step back and let the people you've hired do what you hired them to do. How do you find that balance?
One of the hardest things for a founder to do is to sort of step away from their business when it starts to get bigger and focus on the things that are the most important. So at the very beginning, you want to take control of everything, and you want to make sure the customer is happy and that you're doing your business development and you're talking to your banker, everything. And then as your business starts to grow, you need to be more strategic and sort of, as I say, pop yourself up to the next level of what you really need to be focused on. That's super tough for people that are control freaks that get started this way too. So it's a practice all the time as a founder to be asking yourself that question every morning when you wake up, what's the most important thing today that's going to move my business forward? And then one of the things you need to think about as a founder is, are the things that really need to be happening with my business things that I'm not great at, that I don't want to spend time, and do I need to bring someone in to do that? So that you can work on the stuff you love. It's really important to be having that conversation continuously, because you start to lose your energy as an entrepreneur as you go along. Sometimes if you're not focused on what you're great at.
I picture bookkeeping and accounting being big ones that people want to hire off.
Well, that tells me a lot about you.
Fair enough. Well, thanks so much, Vicki.
You're welcome.
Vicki Saunders is the founder of SheEO. She spoke with me from Toronto. This has been The Sound of Small Business, brought to you by RBC. Next week, we visit KV Dance Studio in Ottawa, where Kalina Van Den Ness is personally taking care of any issues that come up, even the ones that really weren't in her business plan.
I didn't realize that bodies could create so much sweat. The condensation was very high when it was minus 40. So what happened there is the ceiling started to sweat and drip onto the students. So it was great. That was a scary day.
Subscribe to this podcast series to hear this and other stories of Canadian entrepreneurs who just won't quit, even when the ceiling is sweating. Search for The Sound of Small Business wherever you find podcasts, or visit rbc.com/buildingbusiness, where you can also learn how to start your own small business. Thanks for listening.